The second rotation for Astromancer Alena is here, and you can see my score is way higher than last time. It's like 20 million higher, because I'm using a different team that Alusul started doing before the last rotation ended. I'd say this team is kind of hard to run, so you should really only be looking to do this team if you're aiming for top 3, or if you're like not secure for top 100 and you just want to use a better team that scores higher to be a bit more secure, or if you just want to try out a different team than what we did last time. If you are looking for a more easy, consistent top 100 though, then you can use the team we used last time, just with the team requirement changes that I'll go over. And I'll go over the stats for that again anyway, so you can just keep on watching this. Also, if you want an easy top 5% and you don't care about manualing, the auto team is going to be up in a few hours. The requirement this time for the team is 1 ML hero. And we could take a look at everyone's stats, and of course I'll mention the alternatives, as well as the stat changes if you're going to be using Acades, especially for the AoE. I feel like I wasn't clear enough last time about what speed the AoE unit needs to have. As usual, I completely forgot to mention that we have Unequip coming up next week after the maintenance, because we have balance patch that week, and there is always an Unequip after balance patches. And then 2 weeks after that, we also have the usual month-end Unequip. So for the next Hall of Trials rotation, there will be an Unequip in the last few days of the rotation as well. So let's start off with Emilia. Emilia, you want her faster than Kayron. My Kayron's 202, so I made her 214, so she moves before him in the first turn always. And aside from that, you can give her a ton of HP because her sustain is not fantastic. The rest of her stats don't matter, it's just a bunch of HP and then enough speed to go before Kayron. For Artifact, I'm using Doctor's Bag. It's got a solid heal and dispels 1 debuff from all allies. So sometimes depending on how the turns shake out, you can use your S2 and you'll be able to cleanse all of the unhealables off of everybody. Sometimes you won't though. It's kind of RNG because with this team setup, everything that happens is really RNG. And then the alternative for Emilia is Acades, of course. And then Acades stats, this is what I was using last time. Pretty much, Acades doesn't really matter what you do with her because she is so good at sustaining. You're going to be fine no matter what you do. It's just HP and whatever speed you want. So next up, let's take a look at Belian. Belian is our replacement for Wukong and allows us to meet the 1 ML requirement. Belian, I've got her slower than Kayron. She doesn't have to be this slow. 1 speed slower than Kayron is technically fine because Emilia is going to S2 and push Kayron past Belian at the start of the break phase. And then a good amount of HP. You just want enough HP that you can survive even with Emilia's not fantastic sustain. I'm using Crown of Glory as my artifact because it has 20% damage reduction since every attack we take here is AoE. If your Crown of Glory is plus 15 though, you should use Adamant Shield instead because that gives 16% damage reduction at plus 30, compared to Crown of Glory's 15% at plus 15. And then alternatives for Belian is there's, of course, Wukong, who we used last time. There's also Yuna. With Yuna, you have the option of running Bloodstone for a bit of sustain, though it can be annoying if you aren't able to cleanse the unhealables because you're using Emilia or something. And then there's also Abyssal Euphine, though there's one thing you need to be careful about with her. Thanks to Alusul for giving me this clip so I didn't have to record it myself. You can see here this is a team with Abyssal Euphine as the AoE slot, and this is the final hit of the break phase. So after BBK uses her S1 here, the break phase is going to end and Alena is going to do her usual thing. Let's see what happens. So, Abyssal Euphine procced her counterattack after getting hit by Alena here. And you can see that basically this just makes Alena take 2 turns instead of the usual 1. She does her Ad Summit, and then she immediately S1s after. And the turn counter here, it goes from 10 down to 9. And her ult is up 1 turn shorter. So basically, if you're using anything with the counter, like Abyssal Euphine, or if you're trying to use Elbrus to cheese out the skill nullifiers, it might not work out the way you expect, because that counter attack is actually going to make it harder for you to remove the skill nullifiers, as you've lost 1 of Alena's turns, and instead of 3 turns, you only have 2 turns now to remove the skill nullifiers. So then one last thing I want to say about the AoE units. Last run, I had Wukong, at 265 speed, and this isn't mandatory, it's just for safety. What the speed allows you to do is it greatly overkills the ads, which allows you to do things like miss Alexis procs and not really care. It also lets you Kayron S3 for attack buff in the break phase. But if your Wukong is slower, it's fine. Like, you could be 200 speed and it would be okay. This is assuming that you're using Kayron and Alexis, of course. If you're using Kayron with Dust Devil or just a thief besides Kayron, then you're going to want a really fast AoE. But Kayron and Alexis is still going to be fine for top 100 this time, I think. Like, we can take a look at what happens before the break phase each time, or before Cajole, rather. So, like, here the skill nullifiers are already done, are already gone. So, Kayron S1 tier, Wukong cuts. I'm 2 turns ahead. This is the first phase, the easiest one, though. And you can see here, I press S3 as usual, just so I can get the attack buff. And then if we skip ahead to the second phase, that's Senya S3, so it should be a little bit before. So here, same thing. Kayron is going to take his turn, and there's still 1 skill nullifier left, but Wukong's coming up. So I'm 1 turn ahead of schedule. If I S1 here, I clear the skill nullifiers. And then if we go to the third phase, that is already in the break phase. So let's go over here. Here the skill nullifiers are gone, and pretty much the same as the second phase. Kayron's going to take his turn. The skill nullifiers are already gone, so I'm again 2 turns ahead. Because Wukong should cut Alena here, I think. Yeah, Wukong cuts. So I'm 2 turns ahead because Kayron S1 would have plus Wukong S1, and the skill nullifiers are already gone. So you can definitely run Wukong a bit slower. That speed isn't mandatory or anything. So now we can take a look at Senya. Senya is our front counter unit. She is more or less on the same build as last time. I think I don't know what I did with her gear and I was too lazy to check, but it's just a bit of speed so that she actually takes a second turn in the first phase. And then enough HP to not die with her S1 healing EE, so she heals a little bit more. If you have her imprinted, swap her to team imprint. And then I'm using Warhorn on her. Though if you're using Yuna, for example, and you don't have Belian there, you could give Senya or you probably should give Senya Crown of Glory or Adamant Shield to reduce the damage that your team takes. The replacements for Senya, who I do not have built, are mainly just Twisted Eidolon Kayron and Kikarat. Kikarat also having the option to hold Adamant Shield or Crown of Glory. Kayron has an AoE team HP imprint, and both of them meet the ML requirements. Kikarat has a flat team HP imprint, so both of them are probably better than Senya because they allow you to open up using Yuna in the slot. My Yuna's not built either, so it's kind of whatever. And then lastly is Kayron. Kayron, exact same build as last time. S1 damage EE. And instead of Alexis Basket, I'm using Dust Devil because Emilia gives us enough buffs to clear the phases fine. So Dust Devil gives us a 30% chance to attack again with a basic skill. And this does a lot of things, not just in the break phase, but also in the main phase. In the main phase, if you proc Dust Devil, that lets you stack up the aches faster, and if you proc it at least once in the break phase, or in the non-break phase, that makes it so that you have a much higher chance of getting 9 aches on Alena instead of only 8, because that way you only have to make sure that you don't land the blind on 1 turn instead of 2 turns. And then in the break phase itself, it lets you steal turns from Belian essentially if it procs. Yes, it'll increase the break gauge, even on the extra attack, but that's still 1 extra turn of Kayron's damage. So it makes it so that your Belian would ideally only really be taking 2 turns in the break phase. And if you have really good RNG, like not even just maxing out your Dust Devil procs, having the right amount of Dust Devil procs, instead you can actually get your final hit of the break phase to proc Dust Devil and basically get 9 attacks in the break phase. First stats though is just max out his HP, and then the speed is just whatever you have. You do want a bit of speed on him so he takes turns. So I gave him speed set plus HP set. And then alternatives for Kayron, it's really just any thief with an AoE ideally. Like this fight was made for Blooming Litica, who no one is using as usual. The unit that the fight was designed for is not really anywhere close to being the best in slot. And then if you're looking for ML alternatives, Tempest Surin or BBK is probably better. T-Surin's got that annoying bleed on her S1, and I think she's unhealable on her S2. I don't know if Alena's immune to that or not. She is, but she has bleed on her S1. That's still annoying. BBK is probably going to be your best option. It also fulfills the MO requirement. Though, like I mentioned, if you're using not Kayron, you probably want your AoE unit to be really, really fast. But that is it for everyone's stats and the alternatives. So now let's take a look at the run. So the fight starts off, Alena summons the 2 ants with the 6 skill nullifiers. We're going to lead off with Emilia S3, because it can give us the cleanse and the heal, and we'll have it back up by the time we need it again. Kayron S1 with the AoE, and we proc dust double here, but it's not necessary in the first phase at all, because Senya gets 2 S3s off in the first phase, when she doesn't really get to do that in the other one, so skill nullifier clearing is always fine in the first phase. Here we S2 Kayron, giving us 1 extra AoE as well. And we didn't proc dust double there, but I'll mention what happens if you do proc dust double in both of your first 2 turns in the first phase on Kayron's upcoming turn. Here it's the rest turn with Emilia. That's our 1 turn, so Senya will get S3 up. So here, if you did proc dust double, she would have 8 aches, and you would actually use S3 over S1, because that would make it so you're guaranteed to get an ache, as S3 has no debuffs. So we have to use S1 there, or it doesn't really matter either way. And you can see we hit the blind. Now we're in Cajole. Blind is wore off, and we're going to try to see if we can get that last ache on counter. We're in the break phase. So now Emilia, S2 Kayron, so now he has 2 turns of attack buff. And we landed the blind, unfortunately. There's not much we can do about that. And you can see the turn order works out like this. It'll be Emilia push Kayron, Belian uses her S1, pushes everyone back, then Kayron goes again, and then Emilia takes her turn, because everybody will be at 0% CR, so it'll just follow natural turn orders. No dust double proc again is a bit unfortunate. Okay, so here we proc dust double, and there's going to be a chance for us to get the 9-hit break phase in. 7 hits with Kayron, 2 with Belian. And we actually get the proc. So here you can see got an extra 2.5 million damage in because of the dust double proc on the final hit of the break phase. So here, just in case, I'm going to use Senya S1 and Emilia S1 on the ads to remove the skill nullifiers. Kayron S1 should go into Alena so that we can get aches on her. Now we're going to push up Kayron. No dust double proc. So it's going to be a bit tight on the skill nullifiers, but we should be good to go. So we have to also make sure that after we clear these skill nullifiers that we have enough hits on Alena to actually enter the break phase. With the UI changes, it's much easier to see now. She's at 75. And the extra attack doesn't increase her thing, but Senya goes there, and it's at 65, and that's the magic number you're looking for. You want to be at 65 before Cajole goes up. The Senya S3 is here. 5% gets removed, and she's at 60. And the counter removes another 60, and we're in the break phase. So 65 is the magic number you're looking for. The turn order is a bit weird though, because Belian immediately goes, and I don't have attack buff anyways, so I'm just gonna Kayron S3. That also guarantees that I get an ache stack instead of a blind. And here I'm not sure if I should S2 or S3. I decided to use S3. I'm just trying to think about the timings for when these skills will come up in the third phase. So So now we're hoping we proc Dust Devil again, because even if it's not one extra hit, we'll be able to steal the turn from Belian. Which we don't, so unfortunately Belian has to use S1 here, and we lose out on a bit of damage. The same as usual, we hit Alena. Dust Devil proc is nice because we get a bit of Ache. S2 into Kayron. No Dust Devil proc again is unfortunate. So we have to get 2 hits on Alena and 1 hit on the ads. And looking at the CR bar, I'm pretty sure Belian cuts here. Well, we need 2 hits on the ads actually, if there is still no. So if Belian doesn't cut there, I'm pretty much dead, but she does cut, so we're fine. And we're at 65, so we'll be able to enter the break phase as well. There is a chance that you don't have enough hits, and actually, even if Emilia dies, you'll still be able to score pretty high on this last hit. You can just S3 with Kayron at the start and give himself attack buff. As long as Senya is up, so she can counter into the break phase, and Belian is up, so she can push back Senya, you'd still be able to score pretty high. But we did manage to have everything go fine, so now we're just rounding out the break phase, and we can see how high the score gets. So that is it for the Alena team. This team is honestly more fun for me. It's because how many Dust Devil procs you get really changes how the fight plays out. Like in the first break phase, if you proc too many Dust Devils, you can end the break phase before Emilia gets to S2 again, and that just changes her rotations for the rest of the fight and how much sustain you get. Which, if you don't like that RNG though, which I expect 99% of people do not, then you could just do the Acades team. It's definitely still fine for top 100. And then there is also 69.9 million. That's higher than rank 1 was last time. So I could have made rank 1 last time, I guess, if I cared. Because swapping out Belian for Wukong, I could have just put Crown of Glory on Senya instead, and it would have worked out okay. Either way, we'll see if we get Alena again next rotation, or if we get a new boss. Well, not new boss, I think Harsetti is up next, but it would be stylized around Tori. So we'll see what happens next time, and I will see you guys then.